Welcome to On the Road with Ice Castle. Brought to you by Reed Sporting Goods and Granite City Motor Car. All right, welcome. Another edition of our On the Road with Ice Castle. I'm Rick Anderson, your host today. I'm solo in studio here today in our in the Bear Cave. That's our Ice Castle, guys. I have Brody and Brett with me from Baker's Narrow Lodge up in beautiful Manitoba. In God's country, truly God's country. How you guys doing today?
Doing great, Rick.
Awesome. Thanks, Rick.
Well, I am glad you're here. I just first off want to start by welcoming you and then thanking our sponsors. We're sponsored by Reed Sporting Goods out of Walker, of course, also online. And I don't know if you guys have shopped at Reed's up in your area, but I think they ship pretty much everywhere. If you're looking for fishing gear, hunting gear, guns, you name it, Reed's is a great place to get your stuff. And then also here locally, Granite City Motor Car, which they can outfit you with an automobile, whether it's a car, truck, van, something to pull your ice castle with. Granite City Motor Car is the place. And lastly, before we get into Baker's Narrows, I'd like to just invite everyone, if you like what you see, if this is in your wheelhouse, no pun intended, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button, and we'd love to have you join in. We're going to have a variety of content, and this is just one of them. And I thought this would be kind of fun because I've personally enjoyed both hunting and fishing in Alaska, northern Canada, done a few trips, and some of my favorite trips, guys, have been going after those big lake trout. And one of the best places known to man is Baker's Narrows. I've seen Clayton, is it Schick or Schleck?
Schick.
Right? Schick. Yeah, sorry, Clayton, I butchered you there. But anyhow, I've seen his monster lake trout fishing up there, and you guys have put him on some fish. And let's start by just telling us a little bit about Baker's Narrows and where you're located, a little bit about your history. You want to start, Brett?
Yeah, I'd love to, Rick. So Baker's Narrows Lodge, we're located in northern Manitoba, Canada, and we're right at the end of the road here. Honestly, the road ends. You can't drive any further north than where we are. Pavement all the way up, and we are located on Lake Athapapiscow. I know that's a bit of a mouthful, so we shortened it up to Lake Athapap for those of you who, can't pronounce it right away. And Rick, this fishery that we're on here, we've been up here for this is our 22nd year of operation, and what an incredible fishery, multi-species, but specifically for the lake trout.
So big Lakers and catch and release, I would assume, other than maybe your shore lunch. Is that correct?
That's correct. Absolutely.
Yeah. And Brody, tell me a bit about you. Are you does Dad put you out on? Are you the guide? Are you the master guide? What's your role there at the lodge?
Well, Rick, I guide in the summer mostly. This winter, I've just done a lot of digital stuff, social media marketing, that sort of stuff. But yeah, in the summer, lots of guiding. This winter too, if they need me, I'll step in and do some guiding, but we have a lot of guides this winter, so I've kind of taken a bit of a step back in that department and let those guys do their work, and they've done phenomenal this year for us already.
Well, I don't want to slam you here, Brody, but I got to say, you might have one of the easiest jobs on earth with the social media marketing.
Oh, yeah.
Seeing some of the pictures of those fish. I mean, it's not a hard job, but hats off to you. I'm just teasing you.
Not short on content,
it looks,
that's for sure.
So, Brett, if someone wants to come up there, obviously they can drive. And how far of a drive is it from, let's just say, Minneapolis?
Yeah, sure. So you can drive straight up. It's pavement all the way from Minneapolis. You're looking at about 14, 15 hours. You go through Winnipeg, Rick, and then you head straight north, and you can either drive or fly. We've got scheduled flights out of Winnipeg right up to Flin Flon each day on Calm Air, and so some customers are flying, some are driving. Depends what you want to do.
So so is winter fishing, is ice fishing, is that more of your business? Is it equal with your summer program there? How does business shake out there?
Well, Rick, this is our 22nd year of operation. The first 15 years of operation, we were mostly summer only and didn't really have much going on in the winter time, you know. And honestly, I was ready to take. I had a job lined up flying. I'm a commercial pilot. Had a job lined up to fly jets out of Minneapolis, and the same winter that happened, I had Travel Manitoba come to me and say, "You guys need to be open for ice fishing." And at that time, that was about 6 years ago, I said to them, "Nobody's coming to Flin Flon to ice fish."
You underestimated the ice fishermen.
That's for sure.
Well, I love that story. Quite frankly, it's something I've asked myself a lot when I, go to the sports shows and I see, a lot of the lodges, even, in Ontario and further south than you guys. I've always often said, why don't you're missing a whole season there. Why don't you open up for, and logistically, I'm sure it's a bit of a challenge, and there's a lot of overhead that go with it. But with your fishing and some of the fish that you guys get there, it's worth the trip up there because it's definitely, it's definitely monster fish that you're going after.
So last year, Rick, we decided to start keeping track of all these big lake trout we've been catching, and so when guests are out with a guide, guides are keeping track of the number of trophy lake trout we've been catching. And so last year, we caught 118 trophy lake trout in the ice season, and 78 of those were over 40 inches. So this year we started recording on December 18th, and to date, we have caught 55 trophy lake trout already this year.
Yeah, that's incredible. And
35 inches or bigger.
35 inches. What's the best estimate on poundage on a 35 incher?
Oh, it depends on the girth, I mean, some of them are pretty girthy, and others are a little skinnier. But the largest lake trout this year so far to date is 45 and a half inches, and last year was 46 and a quarter.
And you obviously a lot of people will make a replica of that, right?
Absolutely, that's a fish of a lifetime, Rick. So if you're, it's like comparable to going into Africa and having that like safari hunt, that once in a lifetime safari hunt. So, if you're catching a fish like that, absolutely, replica is definitely going to be on the menu.
Let's talk a little bit. Just tell me a little bit about the lodge. Tell me about when someone comes up, what can they expect at Baker's Narrows?
Yeah, of course. So we've kind of become a lake trout mecca, or a destination for trophy lake trout, and that has really, really put Baker's Narrows on the map. And so we have everything up here, from do-it-yourself packages right to full all-inclusive. Absolutely everything. We do it for you, cover it all, and everything in between. So we're pretty diverse, Rick. We've got the log cottages. We've got 15 log cottages here on the property, and they're beautiful little cottages, very well equipped. You can snowmobile right from your cottage out to where you're fishing, so you don't have to be worrying about trailering sleds or anything like that. And we're just a full service lodge. I mean, we have everything you would ever need. We have the guide service, we have the meal service, we've got all the equipment, we've got ice transportation, we've got fleets of snowmobiles and ice snowcats and ice vans, everything you need. So really, we've geared up for pretty much absolutely everything up here at Baker's Narrows Lodge.
And Brody, tell me about, as being one of the guides, tell me about some of the challenges being a little further north. And, obviously, we get some cold weather here in Minnesota. Yeah. We were just up at Red Lake last week, and, it was cold, but it's probably not nearly as cold as it gets up in Flin Flon. What are some of the challenges you face being a little further north and obviously a little colder during the winter time.
Well, you just have to be ready for it. You know, you have to have the gear. You have to have, all the equipment. You have to dress for it. Is a big thing. Propane bottles can freeze, and you can be trying to get a heater started for over an hour some days in -40. You just really have to be careful. Honestly, it can be dangerous, and we all know, it's a serious business. We take it very seriously. We take our safety seriously, our guest safety seriously. But at the same time, guys want to fish, and they will go out in those intense, kind of harsh conditions, and just for a chance at that big fish, and it's really rewarding getting to put them on those fish. But yeah, it's definitely
So,
not easy in these
well,
temperatures.
yeah, that makes sense. And what so obviously you do snowmobiles or snow machines as you guys call them.
Yep.
Do most people fish in portables up there, or do you do? I know you have you have at least one ice castle up there, right?
Yes, we do, Rick. We we've got a 2024 ice castle this year, brand new to the fleet, and it's a 22 footer, sleeps 5 people. Um, and this year's we've been short on ice. It's been just taking a little while to get rolling. So we're actually just now getting it out on the ice, and we are super excited to try it out and to, you know, put it on some structure and see if we can get some lake trout through the hole.
Yeah, that's so. Do you do 10-inch holes? Is that what you do for the Lakers, or do you have to do a special hole there? See, someone's already calling. They want to come up right now. You better grab that one.
Yeah, Rick, I think everybody from Minnesota and North Dakota has been calling, chasing the ice, looking for a place to come ice
Yeah.
fishing.
Yeah, that's for sure. So do you do standard 10-inch holes, or do you do a little bigger double hole or something for those monsters?
Yeah, minimum 10-inch. Sometimes we do a 10-inch tandem hole.
A typical, fishing is fishing, no matter where you are. It can be slow even when you go up to a great place like, like yours. But what would you say is a good 4-day fishing trip up there? What kind of size? What's an average, if there is such a thing?
I mean, like you said, fishing's fishing. Every day is going to be different. That's kind of what I tell guests. You never know what you're going to get out there. You hope for a big fish. Some days it happens. Some days it doesn't. And like Brett said earlier, you can go 4 days with a film crew or whatever up here, and you'll have just the worst 4 days of fishing, and then all of a sudden they leave and it's back to catching big fish. So I'd say it's pretty different. But in 4 days, like, you'll catch fish. You're not gonna go home skunked. You'll catch some fish.
Yeah.
And yeah, the hope for a big one is always there. And we just happen to have a fishery where that chance is pretty good. You just have to put in the time and put in the effort, and get rewarded. Hopefully.
Well, I think one of the best thing that's ever happened is the catch and release with lake trout because
Absolutely.
they grow. I mean, I've always heard a half a pound or so a year. It might be a little more than that, but it's like hooking into grandma when you get a big
Oh
one
yeah.
there. You want to treat her with care,
Yep.
So, what what's the difference compared to like if you were lake trout fishing in one of the lakes in northern Minnesota that has some trout or what kind of gear do you? I mean, some people know this stuff. A lot of people haven't fished lake trout and are maybe want to do their first trip. What kind of gear do you use up there?
A lot of tube jigs and rattle baits have seemingly been the key lately, especially just jigs with a big, like, a nice piece of Cisco or whatever on there. I personally like 4-inch dead Cisco's and then frozen Cisco's that we get from our bait dealer, and they seem to work really well for at least numbers, and then bigger fish. We run a lot of deadlines with like big long Cisco's, 12, 13-inch Cisco's, and that seems to work really well for those tip-ups. Rattle baits, though, seem to be the key right now for whatever reason.
So you do a fair amount of tip ups as well.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Yeah.
We try to utilize
Oh,
the
that's
second
really
line,
cool.
right?
Yeah, exactly. And so, what was the process? You got to be pretty stoked about that new ice castle. What was the process picking that bad boy up? How did you how did you figure that one out?
Yeah, well, we're just testing it out this year, Rick. One of my customers bought it, and a friend of mine as well, and he came along and said to me, "You guys want to try one of these out for a season, see what you think." And so I said, "Yeah, let's get it on the ice and try it out." It's so brand new. I don't even think anybody's stayed in it overnight yet. We're hauling it out on the ice literally tomorrow, and we are
Awesome.
so excited to get this thing going.
Yeah, it's a whole. I mean, it's also good for people to be able to kind of do a hybrid. Maybe you fish some in the house, then you can do like kind of go out a little bit in some portables,
Yep.
come back because lake trout like to move around too, and that's the way. That's the way. I'm certainly no lake trout expert, but I've caught my share of them over the years, and it seems like they like to move around. And do you utilize what do you utilize for graphs and stuff up there?
We use like Helix hummingbirds for our GPS and mapping mostly, and then we'll use Garmin live scopes a lot of the time as well. And they seem to both work really well for us. The live scopes, for actively fishing, and then our GPS to get to our spots and whatnot.
Well, I would say, just as a novice, I would say that live scope for lake trout is probably the biggest game changer
Oh,
in the
100%.
world, just because they're at different depths, right? They're not always, and when I'm watching Clayton, some of Clayton, he's one of my favorites. Both of those guys are my favorites. But him fishing lake trout and showing on the live scope the that laker coming up, literally chasing the bait right up off, as they come up. In fact, we were up fishing one time and up in the Boundary Waters, and we had these portable shacks that had just like a 1 inch, or maybe like a half-inch bottom floor,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we'd go into the Boundary Waters, and we'd haul these real small shacks. And my friend, and we had our daily fishing contest, and my one friend, I hear some shaking and moving around in his. He comes out and he's shaking his head and he's going, "You guys will never believe what happened to me." And he goes, "I was reeling that up, took it out of the hole. The fish came right up into my hole without ever hooking it, and basically he went to grab his gaff at the time to get the fish, and next thing you know, he turns around and the fish swam right into the hole. He never even hooked it." And that's kind of the story of some of those lake trout. They're pretty aggressive.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
back to the live scope. The live scope really gives you an idea of where they are in the water, and it
Yep.
makes them easier to kind of target. So, so let's go back to the lodge a little bit, and let's talk about the most important thing for guys like me. Tell me about your meals and your plans that you have.
Yeah, sure, Rick. So we offer a full all-inclusive um, meal package at the lodge. We've got a couple of chefs there that work for us, and the food they put out is just wonderful. Um, some nights it'll be steak. Usually you've got three or four choices, or even more, half a dozen choices of what you want to eat. Can be, it can be. We do a lot of smoked meat at the lodge, so we got the smoker going all the time. Smoked ribs,
Awesome.
brisket, steaks, and so
Then your
the
typical
truck.
comfort burgers, walleye dinner, that sort of thing.
Do you have walleye on the lake at all or not?
Yep, yep. Great walleye fishing.
Okay. Is it? Okay. So do they, but when people come up there, they're partial to the Lakers and the big pike, I would say a little more than the walleye. Is that safe to say?
Definitely lately. There's still lots of people, though, that come up for the walleye. And honestly, like this fall, I'd say the walleye on this lake it would have been some of the best you'd find anywhere, honestly. The amount of big walleye we were catching this fall was just ridiculous. Yeah, this fall was really awesome for the walleye.
Do you ever get any trophy walleye like that size, or
Oh,
is it
yeah.
just really nice fat walleyes?
Oh, yeah.
So you'll get some
Yeah.
trophies too. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Um, Brett, you were at we got a chance to connect a little bit at the sports show, and you have your big snow. What do you call the big cat? Is a big cat, or what is that you get people out to
Yeah,
their spot in?
yeah, we've got two pieces of equipment that we use to transport our guests onto the ice if they don't have their own snowmobile or whatever. So the first one is our snowcat, and it's about a 10 passenger tracked vehicle that you can use to be transported out on the ice. And the second is a snow van, and it's basically a 15 passenger van, Rick, that is on mat tracks, and um, nothing stopping that thing. It just goes.
Yeah, that was this your first year at the St. Paul Ice Show?
Yeah, it was great show.
What were some of the questions that people had? And were they familiar with you? And what kind of questions did they ask you?
Well, we got some people who had heard about us and definitely wanted to come up and check out the lake trout fishing. Uh, a lot of questions we had were, do you guys offer multi-species fishing? Which we do. We kind of focus on the lake trout, but we've got, phenomenal fishing for all the other species as well up here. And so they like to learn about that. Um, they like to learn about how far it was, and they loved hearing that it was a drive-to lodge, and just all the amenities. I think what people really think about when they're looking to come this far north, Rick, is they don't know what to expect. And so they're like, is there going to be running water? Is there going to be, uh, towels and sheets and, all this stuff in the cabins? Well, I mean, we run a full service lodge. All of those things are covered. I mean, like, people get here and they're like, wow, we had no idea it was this nice. So,
Can, can they get a beer?
oh, there's a few beer up here, Rick.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
nice. That's nice. Well, I think you just got me talked into coming up. I think we need to make a road trip.
I think so.
What? So let's start with some stories. What? Give me your, and then I'm gonna give you my best story. I want to hear a few of yours, I'm not a betting guy. Well, I'm kind of a betting guy, but I have a pretty good story for
All
you.
right.
What are some of your Brody? Give me a couple of good stories.
Oh gosh. Well, um, the best one that comes to mind. It's not an ice fishing story. It happened this summer. But I was out with my now fiance. We were fishing in the boat at a spot I like for some trout, and it was a really good day. We were catching lots of fish. I set my rod down for, gosh, I don't know, probably 3 seconds to open up the cooler and grab my bottle of water. And in those 3 seconds, I had a 3.5 inch tube or whatever it was suspended in about 50 feet. I was fishing 110 feet, so it was suspended about halfway up. Something came up and smacked it and took my rod. So it splashed into the water, and I was not happy. I lost a rod. I shook it off and kept fishing. And 3 days later, I have some guests for that day, and we were having a bit of a slow day. So I was just telling stories and just trying to keep them happy and entertained and laughing. And I said, guys, this spot, I lost a rod here 3 days ago, and if one of you catches it, it's yours. You can keep it. And so keep in mind, this is 3 days after. I told it to them just as a joke, like make them laugh. And, it laughed. There were three of them in the boat. And so sure enough, this kid, he was, I think, 19 years old. He was getting a bit discouraged because he hadn't caught a fish yet. It was probably 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And all of a sudden he sets a hook into a fish. And, it's giving him a pretty good fight. And all of a sudden, his brother next to him, his line was coming up tangled with him as he was fighting this fish. So it's a little bit of a gong show. I'm trying to untangle line while this kid's pulling up his first fish of the day. We're really trying to want to land it for him. And all of a sudden, the brother's fiance was fishing off the other side of the boat, and her line comes up underneath the boat, also tangled. So we're dealing with a mess here at this point. And I would say a basketball size nest of like tangled, messy line comes up out of the water. And right after that, sure enough, my rod comes up. And the guy goes, I think that's your rod. So I look over the side of the boat, I say, sure enough, that's my rod. And we pull it in, and I look down out of this huge bird's nest of line. And there's 3 lines going down. And I see all 3 of their hooks sitting in the water. And I'm like, well, this doesn't make sense, because this guy, he was fighting a fish. He had to have been, because it was peeling line from him. And, at the very start of this whole ordeal, I look out, and there's a single strand of line coming from this big nest out into the water, and I grab it, and I start pulling it in. Sure enough, there's a 23-inch lake trout. I look in its mouth, and half digested, my jig with the line still attached coming out. So what happened, I guess, was this fish, the only thing that was tangled was the brother who initially set the hook into this fish. The line was hooked onto the top eyelet of the rod, and we unhooked it, and he was fishing again. He wasn't even tangled. So that's what started it all, and this fish must have swam around the entire boat, tangled all 3 of them, and they brought everything up.
Wow, that's a good one. That's a good one.
So sure enough, the kid kept
was
my
there
rod.
Oh yeah, he wasn't going to let you go on that one. Was there any big ones in that group?
No, not in that group.
Yeah. Brett, how about you? I'm sure you got a few good stories.
Man, I could sit here all day and tell you fish stories, Rick. One that comes to mind that really sticks out for me was last winter. We had Travel Manitoba up here. They were doing some filming. Jay Siemens, Clayton Schick. I brought the 2 of them together, if you can believe it or not. And I'm like, you guys are going to fish together, okay? That's the way it is. It's happening. And so we went out one day, and we went for Lakers, and anytime you're filming, you're like, you're hoping, but it always seems when you got the camera on, stuff just, it just doesn't happen. And then they leave, and all of a sudden you're catching big fish again. So we had these guys out, and all of a sudden, it was one of those days, Rick, you'll never repeat. It just won't happen. All the stars lined up. We started catching fish, and these guys got into some nice ones. Jay got his personal best that day. We actually ended up catching. Josh McFadden was there too. We ended up catching 5 master angler trophy lake trout that day, all on camera.
Wow.
All on camera. And everybody was so excited. We were tackling each other, rolling in the snow, and forget high fives. We're well past high fives at this point, And it was one of those epic days that it would be impossible to repeat, So
that is crazy. That is crazy. Since you guys have patiently waited for my story, I'll tell you my story. I was up in at Plumbers in Northwest Territories,
Yep.
and we were fishing lake trout. Actually got 2 stories. A couple. We were up there twice, and I hooked in. I was using a Babe Winkleman shadling, like a Rapala. I don't even know if they have those anymore, but we were this was in the summer, obviously. We were fishing, pretty shallow water, maybe 15, 20 feet or something like that. And all of a sudden I get this fish, and it's a beauty. And I'm fighting it, and fighting it for quite a while. My buddy is there with me, and I finally get him pulled up to the boat. And as I'm getting him pulled up to the boat, my buddy tells the guide, "Don't net him yet, Reggie. Don't net him yet. He's not ready yet." Well, what does Reggie do? Reggie goes down and starts chasing him around with the net. And of course, what's he do? He hooks the net on the fish.
Oh.
And I'm like, son of a, you know what? I'm like, bring him over here. And I just remember saying, I'm gonna just hand him, So he brings him to the side of the boat. And as I'm thinking about going down there and handing him, he comes loose.
Oh.
And I'm like, I'm gonna lose this fish, and it's a monster. It's a monster. And I said, I got one shot at this bad boy, and bad girl. But I go down, and my hand couldn't have slid more perfectly under the gill plate. No gills, nothing. I slid. I got him. I handed this fish,
Beautiful.
50-pound lake trout by hand.
Wow.
Yeah,
Unreal.
it was a story. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those stories probably hard to believe, but it happened. And I remember just as I went down to grab it with my hand, I'm like, I don't care if I get all teeth, just hold on.
Yeah.
And up by where you guys are, you're not a hospital's not right around the corner.
Yeah.
You got some things to think about, but that was one of them. And then the other one, we were kind of young and foolish, and we saw a bear across the channel, and we decided to go over to the bear and just take some pictures. And at that time I don't know, do they still let you fish with sucker meat, or is that illegal now? I think it's illegal probably, but we threw some sucker meat at this bear, and that's when America's Funniest Home Videos were at their like peak. And I remember, telling my brother-in-law, going, don't let him get too close, Johnny. He's going to try to jump in the boat. Well, sure as, you know what? He tries to jump in the boat, puts his feet on the bow of the boat, and we zoom off, and we got chewed out at the camp. So we're not that way anymore. But we're lucky. We're lucky we didn't capsize the boat. But lots of good stories. If someone wants more information, what's the best way? Obviously, you have a beautiful website. We can put a link on the website. What's the best way to find out? The website? Do you have prices and stuff on there, or what should they call you? What's the best way to go about
Well,
it?
what I'd like people to do, Rick, for starters, is check out our website and go to the ice fishing page if that's what they're doing, or the summer packages or whatever, and just kind of just see what we got going on a little bit, because we do have some really cool packages. But I love it when people call, and so I can talk to them firsthand. Quite often it's me that answers the phone that they'll be talking to, and I can find out really what they're looking for, you know. So that helps a lot when they call us, and we have a toll-free number anywhere in North America. So
Check it out. Go online, check it out, and also don't forget to subscribe to this channel. It's kind of oversaid, but hit the like and subscribe, and then the notification bell if you want to see more videos. And then the other thing I'd like to say is, if you'd like to see more content like this, let us know types of videos you'd like to see. We'll get you on, and of course, anything to do with Ice Castle, we want to talk about. And once again, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Reed Sporting Goods and also Granite City Motor Car, both great sponsors. And if you're in the need for some tackles, some guns, some sports gear, or something for your cabin, check out Reed's. And if you want something to pull that big Ice Castle fish house, get one of the brand new diesels from Granite City Motor Car. And that's it. Guys, thanks for coming on, and really appreciate you taking your time. I know this is a busy time of the year, and hopefully we can drive some people from Minnesota and around the Midwest here up to you guys to do a world-class trip at your lodge. So thanks again, and we'll be in touch.
Appreciate
that's
it, Rick.
terrific, Rick.